Welcome to chapter 19 of the book of Judges. The last story goes through 3 chapters. I'll have to give a little warning now that for those that are sensitive to a gory story, then you might take note that this, to me, is the most gory, worst chapter in the Bible outside of the crucifixion of Jesus. And it's a time of basically lawlessness. People did what they wanted to do. And it begins with this Levite. Now, there was, I mentioned in chapter 18, this is not the same Levite that we read about earlier, but this is a different one. And it begins, and there was a man, a Levite, sojourning on the sides of Mount Ephraim. So let's go up here. And so Ephraim is over here behind my camera. And so he's on someplace on the side of that mountain, and he's heading down to Bethlehem, which is down here, south of Jerusalem. And interestingly, though, when it talks about it, it has him going down, passing Jerusalem on his way to Bethlehem. Or is he going? No, he's going back. So he was from Bethlehem, passing Jerusalem, going back up to Ephraim. And we hear about Gibeah, which would be right in here, below Gibeon, someplace where Bethany, where that word "be" is in the Bethany, is where this town of Gibeah is. And so he took to himself a woman concubine from Bethlehem of Judah. Now, it doesn't say a wife, a concubine, so apparently they weren't married. That's what I'm gathering from the Polyglot. And she was in Bethlehem, where I showed you, and that was down further south of Jerusalem. At the time it was called Jebus. And his concubine provoked him to anger, and she went forth from him unto the house of her father in Bethlehem, Judah, and was there 4 months. So she went down that way, all the way back to Bethlehem, to stay with her father. She got mad at this man. And her husband rose up. So now it calls a husband here. Now let's see what it has down at the bottom with the, or a man. It could be a man on here. But let's call him the husband. And he went after her to speak unto her heart, to reconcile her. And his servant was with him, and a pair of beasts of burden. Now he must have been. He had some money. He had a servant that went with him, and he had to pay his way, and had a couple of animals and the concubine. And he went into the house of her father in Bethlehem. And the father of the young woman beheld him, and was at hand for meeting him at the door, I guess. Saw him coming. And his father-in-law brought him in, the father of the young woman. And he, the Levite, stayed with him 3 days. And they ate and drank and slept there. And it came to pass on the 4th day that they rose early in the morning, and he rose up to depart, the Levite. And the father of the young woman said to him, to his son-in-law, well, support your heart with a piece of bread, and after this go. Have something to eat, and then afterwards go. Trying to keep him there. And he sat down, and both ate together and drank. And the father of the young woman said to the man, well, for a beginning, right now, just lodge and do good to your heart. Just stay here. And the man rose up to depart. No, he wanted to go back. And his father-in-law forced him, and he stayed and lodged there. No, you can't leave, and you got to stay here a little bit longer, and so forth. Try to keep him there. And the Levite, he rose early in the morning on the 5th day to depart. And the father of the young woman said, I'll support indeed your heart with bread and soldier, and bivouac is the word. Stay here until, now why is using a military term, I don't know, but it is. Stay until the day should decline. And then basically he's hoping he would spend the night. And both drank and ate. And the man, the Levite, rose up to go, he and his concubine and his servant. 5th day. And his father-in-law said to him, the father of the young woman, well, behold, indeed, the day is declined. It's in the afternoon until the evening. Well, evening. Lodge here and do good to your heart. And rise early tomorrow unto your way, and you shall depart into your tent. Go back to where you were. And the Levite, the man, did not want to lodge. And he rose up and went forth and came unto before Eavus, Jebus. This is Jerusalem. And with him were a pair of beasts of burden being saddled, and his concubine with him, and doesn't mention, but he has the servant. So they're getting close to Jerusalem. Then they got to go further down to Bethlehem. And they were near Jebus, and the day declined exceedingly. And the servant said to his master, "Oh, come, please, even we should turn aside into this Jebusite, the city of the Jebusites, and lodge in it." And it's a good place to go, even though they're Jebusites, not Jews. And his master said to him, "In no way shall we turn aside into an alien city in which there is not one from out of the sons of Israel. And we shall go by unto Gibeah." And he said to his servant, "Come, for we should approach one of the places, and we should lodge in Gibeah or in Ramah." And they went by and went down, and the sun went by and down on them, being next to Gibeah, which is of Benjamin. Let's just go back up there again and see where it's at. So Gibeon was here, but he is coming down, and he's past Jerusalem, so he's down here somewhere. No, I'm sorry, he's going back. He's past Jerusalem, he's going north, and he's up in this area here. There's Ramah, and then Gibeah was down in here. Now, if you go on the internet to Wikipedia, you look up Gibeah, they have it all up north and all kinds of things. But it gets kind of confusing because nobody knows exactly for sure where it is, but just from the description of being past Jerusalem. And they turned aside there to enter to rest up in Gibeah, Gabaa in Greek. And he entered, the man that sat in the square of the city, and there was not a man bringing them into the house to rest up. So he goes, and they come into the city. It's dark, and probably a well and a square where the people got together, and he's there in that area. And behold, an old man entered from his works, from out of the field. The agriculture comes from that, at evening. And the man was from out of Mount Ephraim, so he was up from the same area. And he sojourned in Gibeah, lived there. And the men of the place were sons of Benjamin, so the tribe of Benjamin was there, a little bit north of Judah. And he looked, or maybe it was south of Judah, and he looked up with his eyes and saw the journeying man in the square of the city. And the old man said, "Where are you going, and from what place you come from?" And he said to him, the Levite, "We are passing over from out of Bethlehem of Judah unto the side of Mount Ephraim. And I am from there. And I went unto Bethlehem of Judah, and I run to my house. But there's not a man bringing me into a house. And indeed, straw and fodder exists for our donkeys, and indeed bread and wine exists to me, and to the maidservant, and to the servant, to your bondmen there is not a deficiency of anything. They just don't have a place to stay over their head. And the old man said, Irene to you, peace to you. Only let any deficiency of yours be upon me. Let me take care of what you want, more or less. Only you should not rest up in the square. The platia, plate, comes from that. And he brought him into his house, and camped his beasts of burden, took care of them, put them somewhere, and they washed their feet, and ate and drank. And they were doing their heart good. Now, I'm not sure if he's drinking wine, probably, and feeling good. And behold, the men of the city, sons of lawbreakers, encircled the house and knocked upon the door and said to the man, the master of the house, the old man, saying, Lead out the man entering into your house so we should know him. Well, what does that remind us of? It reminds us of Lot and Sodom and Gomorrah, and the angels going to get Lot out, going into the house and so forth. But here, these men, again, lead the man out, that we should know him, have intercourse with him. They're sodomites, basically homosexuals. And the man came forth to them, the master of the house, and he said to them, he opens the door, By no means, my brothers, you should not do the evil indeed with this man entering into my house. You should not do this folly. And apparently in those days, hospitality was on a high plane. If somebody came to your house and you did everything you could to be gracious to them. Behold, my daughter, the virgin, and his concubine, I will bring them, and you humble them, and do to them the good thing in your eyes. And to this man you should not do this thing of folly. So the women were looked more as almost chattel, because their worth is mentioned in the books of the law. They're not worth as far as money and slavery and selling them anywhere near what a man was. So they were looked down on somewhat. Not all of them, but some of them. And here, this man this old man allowing this young man to come, wanted to protect him, and so he offers his daughter and the women. And the men did not want to hear him. And the man took hold of his concubine and led her to them outside. And they knew her, and sported with her the entire night until the morning. And they sent her at the same time, the dawn descending. Now, homosexuals, you would think, well, they wouldn't have anything to do with the women. They just want the men. So basically, these people were pretty, I don't know what the word would be for it, lowlifes. They would just take anybody they could to gratiate their lust. And they couldn't have the man, then they would do it with the woman. But it gets worse. And the woman came in the morning, and probably the concubine, it wasn't probably, that's who it was, and fell by the door of the vestibule of the house of the man of whom her master was there. Her master. So it doesn't say a husband. Andros is a man. Her master there, until of which time light shone through. So after being raped many times, she gets away and finally goes to the house and falls down at the door. And her master rose up in the morning and opened the doors of the house and came forth to depart into his way. And behold, now maybe he's just going to leave her there. She's being had sexually by all these men, so didn't want her anymore, possibly. This is my guess. And behold, the woman, his concubine, was fallen by the door of the house, and her hands were upon the threshold, which gives now why would they mention where her hands were? Well, it's sort of like this is where her safety was, and they were not able to protect her. They allowed her to fall into the hands of these evil men without fighting or anything. And so she goes back, and it's more of a guilt type thing of putting her hands on the threshold, that the the problem that happened was partly their fault, and that's the way I see it. And he said to her, she's laying there, "Rise up, for we should go forth." And she answered not to him, for she had died. And he lifted her upon the beast of burden, and the man rose up and went forth to his place. Now, being his place would have been back up to Ephraim. And he entered into his house, and took the knife, and took hold of his concubine, and dismembered her according to her bones into 12 portions, and sent them unto all the tribes of Israel. Each tribe got a portion of the part of the body, dead body of this girl. And it came to pass, all the ones seeing said, "Well, neither happened nor was thus seen from the days of the ascending of the sons of Israel from out of the land of Egypt until this day. Nothing like this. Appoint indeed to yourselves counsel concerning her, and speak." Let's do something about this, is more or less what they're saying. Nothing like this has ever happened. We've never seen anything like this. Appoint this counsel. So now the story changes into the people that hear of this, the 12 tribes, and what are they going to do about this terrible situation. And it will be known to us in chapter 20. So I hope you'll continue in the story. Join us in chapter 20. Until then, God bless.